So a very interesting thing happened to me over the holiday break, whatever you want to call it. And I think it's very telling of, just one of the big reasons I think eating meat is a shitty and stupid, blind habit. Now, let me add a little nuance. I think that if you go out and you hunt and kill and you slaughter and then you eat your own animal yourself, you kill it, you slaughter it, and then you eat the meat raw and unseasoned, I have so much more respect for you and your choices as opposed to someone who, well aware of the barbaric nature of factory farming, still buys factory farmed food and factory farmed animal meat and eats it, even though they know that they would be incapable of killing the animal themselves, even though they know if they had to see the slaughtering, they probably, they wouldn't be able to stomach whatever they were about to eat. And I say this as somebody who's not even 100% vegan myself. I still have my cheat meals occasionally. I still eat meat occasionally. All right? You will see me at a Wendy's occasionally, okay? But let me tell you right now, when I go to Wendy's, I literally feel like a bad person. I know that there's no way I can ethically or morally justify this. I know that there's no way I can go to sleep at night thinking that I am a good and moral person while eating the Wendy's cheeseburgers, while eating the hamburgers and the beef. My thing isn't even so much, oh, the poor animals, how dare you? My thing is, how could you dare claim that you're such a good person, go to sleep at night, go to church on Sunday thinking you're such a great human being, when your little dog Rex dies, you cry like a blubbering baby, but then when you're stuffing your face with tortured factory farmed cows, you just write off all the animals that you like to eat, even though in India cows are sacred, even though in China they'll eat your dog or your cat for an annual festival over there, the Yulin Dog Meat Festival. You'll get all worked up because, oh, your little Rex died, or oh, somebody tortured a dog, or this or that. See, the point is you're not being a consistent human being. So, long rant, but here's the point of the story. I was talking to a friend of mine, he's about 35 years old, and I don't go out of my way to bring up the topic of veganism because I understand that there's a stereotype. How can you tell if somebody's a vegan? Because they'll fucking tell you. We understand this. And the truth is that my whole thing is I don't like to morally grandstand. My videos on veganism, it's not about I'm better than you. The question is, are you being consistent within your own espoused morals and values? This is something that Paul Joseph Watson failed to understand when he unfollowed me on Twitter after we got into a back and forth. What's up, bro? Chilling. After we got into a back and forth over veganism. So this dude is 35 years old. Okay, he's a friend of mine, and we're talking, and I didn't bring up veganism, but it came up because we had talked about it before, because he knows that I'm vegan, and we start talking about meat, and he's like, well, it doesn't really matter. What's happening to cows and factory farms, none of that really matters. Who cares? If they're suffering, I don't got time. Who cares about that, right? Okay. And we keep talking. I'm like, I are sarcastically, I'm like, yeah, who gives a shit, man? Because I was actually eating meat at that very moment. So there I am being critical of myself. You see, I can be critical of my own actions. This isn't about going to sleep at night feeling like you're a good person. So we're going back and forth, and I'm basically like, yeah, it's just eating meat. I think is a bad thing. I'm a terrible human being. I am a terrible human being. As I eat this right now, I'm telling myself I'm a terrible human being for eating this fucking tortured animal flesh. And so and I go, I am paying someone, some psychopath, to kill an animal for me, even though I probably wouldn't be able to stab its throat open myself. And then my friend, for the first time in his life, says something. A realization dawned upon him And he goes, wow, I just realized I'm actually paying somebody to murder these animals for me. And in that very moment, a click happened in his brain. In that very moment, a connection was made that had never been made before. Even though he'd heard arguments about veganism from countless other places before, even though he'd heard about animal rights and the torture going on in the factory farms before, even though he'd probably heard that, maybe it's not necessary, maybe I don't have to eat dead animals, tortured animals. With all of that, it had never occurred to him once in his entire life that he was directly paying people. He was directly paying people. Come on. He was directly paying people. People are fascinated by the selfie stick. He was directly paying people, meaning he wasn't just eating steak without having to think about it. He wasn't just, I'm just eating a piece of steak and it just fell on my plate and I have nothing to do with where the meat came from, how it was sourced, whether or not the animal was tortured, whether or not the animal was killed. I have nothing to do with that. His whole life, that was what he was thinking. I have nothing to do with that. I'm just eating something that magically appeared here. He never made the connection that he is literally paying a dude, in many cases probably with a knife, other times with a giant bolt gun, to blow the brains out of a fucking cow's skull. He's actually directly, it's no different than if you went up to your neighbor and said, hey dude, there's that fucking cow out in the fucking farm a few miles from here. That motherfucking cow looks delicious, but I don't want to get blood on my hands. I don't want to feel responsible for blowing its brains out. Do you mind if you go over there and just put a bolt gun to its head, blow its brains out, then slaughter it, give me a slice of the meat, and then I'll season it and cook it to get myself as distanced away from it as possible? Because seasoning and cooking your meat is just one extension of the impulse people have, the average meat eater has, to get away from the reality of the meat. You got to cover it with seasoning, you got to cook it up to get as far away from the reality of the raw, dead animal flesh as possible. You won't kill it yourself, you won't slaughter it yourself, you won't even eat it raw and unseasoned like many meat eaters do. Some meat eaters out there will eat their meat raw and unseasoned. For that matter, some will kill the animal themselves, slaughter it. The connection was never made. The connection was never made in his brain. And it's stunning to me that we can walk around our whole lives, pay for a product, and never realize that we are directly complicit in the entire chain of events, from slaughterhouse to your plate. From slaughterhouse to your plate, you are paying for it, you are funding it, you might as well be an investor in it. And it's stunning to me how difficult it is for the connection to be made, because you see, and the look on my friend's face was one of shock. It was one of, oh my God, I'm paying for this. And it's not even a moral thing. It's not even you pay for the poor little animals getting killed. It's about, would you be able to pick the knife up yourself and slash its throat open? Would you be able to rip open its carcass and remove the internal organs and get the select cuts of meat? Why can't you stomach the reality of what you're about to put in your stomach? To me, that implies cognitive dissonance. To me, that implies there's a fucking inconsistency in your espoused values and actions. This isn't even about morality and about saving the animals. This is about being a consistent human being. But you know what? A seed was planted in his mind in that very moment. A seed was planted. I'm out here at a park Anyway, so I just wanted to get that out there. I do think that a lot of times, a lot of people, it's easier to consume the dead, tortured animal body parts when you're distanced from it. And sometimes I wonder if you had to kill it, cut it, slice it open, take its soul, and consume the animal raw and unseasoned, or for that matter, seasoned and cooked, if you must, if you can't handle it, if you're not man enough to handle the entire animal. I wonder how much meat the average person would eat in a day, in a week, in a month, in a year, if they had to take the animal's soul themselves and see the reality of what they're engaging in. I think a lot of times eating meat all day, every day is a luxury enabled by ignorance of the reality of what's going on. It took him 35 years, he's 35 years old, it took him 35 years to make the connection, to make the fucking connection. Honestly, if you want to see people eat less meat, if you want to see people eat less dead, tortured animals, how much would they eat if they had to kill it themselves? In my opinion, if you're somebody who prides yourself as a meat eater and literally thinks you're a big, strong man, if you can't kill the animal yourself, you're kind of a pussy by your own values. If you associate eating animals with manliness, hence vegans are pussies, soy boys, then if eating meat makes you a man, then eating raw and seasoned meat makes you an even bigger man. And for that matter, being able to take the animal's life makes you an even bigger man. So how manly are you? And how consistent are you within your own espoused values and morals? This isn't about moral grandstanding. This is about logical consistency. Let's see if you guys can catch it. Anyways, thank you guys for watching. Thank you to all the vegan viewers, non-vegan viewers, the sausage gobblers, the men who think they're manly because they like to insert big fat sausages. They just love stuffing big sausages into their mouths. They just like to insert it in their mouths. Thank you guys for watching. And before I let you guys go, be sure to check out, in fact, let me pull this out here. Be sure to check out the incredible Vibram 5 Fingers. These things are literally, they're fucking incredible. I'm a big fan of minimalist running and walking. I don't feel the need to protect my little baby feet from the elements. I can step outside and I can handle, my feet can handle the elements. I'm not gonna, fucking go crying because I got a little boo-boo on my foot. Vibram 5 Fingers are a great intermediary if you guys feel embarrassed about walking outside barefoot, or you don't think your feet are ready for it, or you just want to in between. These are great if you're going to go riding bike. The pedals can hurt your feet, but these are a great way to protect them. Or if you got to go out in public, but you still want to have the minimalist experience. As you can see, the wiggle factor. Just look at the wiggle factor. Look at the wiggle factor. Look at that wiggle factor. So these things really are incredible. Here's a underneath shot. There you go. They're just individuated toes right there. It's really an awesome experience. I highly recommend them if you're into this kind of stuff. So if you guys want, you guys can purchase them right now. I'll put a link in the description below to the Vibram 5 Fingers. You guys can get your own pair. I really enjoy them. And so thank you guys for watching again. The link is in the description below.